In 1987, a team of NASA scientists sealed 14 common houseplants inside airtight chambers filled with toxic gases. The goal was to determine whether plants could purify air in space stations. What they did not expect to find, and what has been largely overlooked since, is that 3 of the plants that performed best in those tests are the same 3 that Feng Shui masters have placed at the entrances of wealthy households for over 2,000 years. Plants that cost less than €3 in any garden center. Plants that most people walk past without a second glance. The connection between a NASA clean air study and ancient Chinese prosperity traditions is not coincidence. It is a convergence that modern environmental psychology is only beginning to understand. And it starts with a plant so common that it is often given away for free. Plant 1, Pothos, Epipremnum aureum. The money vine. In Mandarin Chinese, Pothos is called golden vine, Huangjingge, a name that has followed this plant through centuries of placement in homes, shops, and offices across East and Southeast Asia. It is not a decorative choice. In classical Feng Shui, Pothos is placed in the southeast corner of a room, the wealth sector, because its cascading growth pattern is believed to represent the continuous, downward flow of abundance into a household. The plant itself is almost impossible to kill. It tolerates low light, irregular watering, temperature fluctuations, and neglect that would destroy most tropical species within weeks. This resilience is not incidental to its symbolic value. In Feng Shui philosophy, a plant that thrives under difficult conditions signals that the energy of the space is strong enough to sustain growth, which is interpreted as a positive indicator for financial health. But there is a layer beyond symbolism that makes Pothos genuinely remarkable. The 1989 NASA Clean Air Study identified Epipremnum aureum as one of the most effective plants at removing formaldehyde, benzene, and xylene from indoor air. These are volatile organic compounds emitted by furniture, paint, cleaning products, and synthetic fabrics, chemicals that accumulate in enclosed spaces and have been linked to headaches, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and respiratory irritation. The connection to prosperity is not mystical. It is physiological. A person breathing cleaner air sleeps better, thinks more clearly, makes fewer impulsive decisions, and sustains focus for longer periods. In a home office or a workspace, those are not minor advantages. They are the cognitive foundations of financial productivity. The ancient Feng Shui masters did not have gas chromatography, but they had centuries of observation, and what they observed was that households with Pothos in the right locations tended to do better. Modern science is providing the mechanism. What makes Pothos particularly powerful for indoor environments is its growth rate. Under moderate conditions, indirect light, and occasional watering, a single vine can grow between 30 and 40 centimeters per month. Each new leaf adds surface area for gas exchange, which means the air purifying capacity of the plant increases continuously without any additional investment. A single cutting placed in water in January can become a wall-covering cascade by December, processing more air with each passing week. The propagation process requires almost no knowledge. A cutting with at least 2 nodes placed in a glass of water on a windowsill will develop roots within 5 to 10 days. Once the roots reach 3 or 4 centimeters, the cutting can be transferred to soil or left indefinitely in water. Either method works. Either method produces a fully functional air-purifying plant from a piece that would otherwise have been discarded during routine pruning. A small pot costs between €1 and €2 in most garden centers. Within 6 months, a single plant produces enough cuttings to fill an entire room with cascading green growth, each cutting carrying the same air-purifying capacity as the parent plant. The return on investment, measured purely in terms of air quality improvement per euro spent, is difficult to match with any commercial product. In more than 20 years of working with plants, Few have demonstrated such a reliable combination of hardiness, beauty, air purification, and cultural significance. Pothos does not demand attention. It simply grows, cleans, and, according to traditions spanning thousands of years, attracts. There is one additional detail that experienced growers notice over time. The speed at which pothos grows in a given space is often an accurate indicator of that space's air quality and light conditions. A pothos that grows rapidly is confirming that the environment is healthy. A pothos that stagnates is signaling a problem: poor ventilation, insufficient light, or excessive chemical exposure. In this sense, the plant functions as a living sensor, providing real-time feedback about the quality of the space in which financial and personal decisions are being made. If pothos represents the quiet, continuous flow of abundance, the second plant operates on an entirely different principle, one rooted not in flow, but in accumulation. Where pothos cascades and spreads, this plant sits still, stores, and waits. Plant 2, jade plant, Crassula ovata. The coin tree. The leaves of Crassula ovata are thick, round, and slightly convex, shaped unmistakably like coins. This is not a modern interpretation. In China, the jade plant has been called the money tree, Fa Kai Shu, for at least 1,000 years. In South Africa, where the species originates, Zulu and Xhosa traditions associate it with prosperity and good fortune. In Brazil, it is placed near cash registers in virtually every small business. In the Middle East, it is among the most common gifts for a new business opening. The geographical spread of this association is extraordinary. Cultures that had no contact with each other independently arrived at the same conclusion about the same plant. The question is why? Part of the answer is visual. The round, jade-green leaves reflect light in a way that creates an impression of lushness and health. Environmental psychology research has consistently shown that humans respond to round shapes with feelings of safety, comfort, and openness, the same emotional states associated with financial security. A jade plant on a desk or near an entrance creates a subtle but measurable shift in the psychological atmosphere of a space. The color itself plays a role. The specific shade of green produced by healthy Crassula ovata leaves falls within the wavelength range that the human eye perceives most efficiently, between 520 and 560 nanometers. Studies in chromotherapy and workspace design have found that exposure to this particular green reduces cortisol levels, lowers heart rate, and increases feelings of stability. A person sitting near a jade plant is, measurably, calmer and more composed than the same person in an identical room without one. Calmness and composure are not abstract qualities. They are the emotional prerequisites of sound financial judgment. But the deeper answer lies in what the jade plant does biologically. Crassula ovata is a CAM photosynthesis plant, crassulacean acid metabolism, which means it opens its stomata at night, absorbing carbon dioxide while most other plants are dormant. The result is a measurable improvement in nighttime air quality in the room where the plant sits. For anyone who works from home, studies at night, or simply sleeps in a room with a jade plant, this translates to better oxygen availability during the hours when the body is repairing and the brain is consolidating memory. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Environmental Psychology found that the mere presence of a succulent on a desk increased task completion rates by 11% and reduced self-reported stress by 14%. The jade plant, compact, visually striking, and biologically active at night, fits this profile precisely. The plant costs between 1 and 3 euros. It grows slowly, rarely needs water. Once every 2 to 3 weeks is sufficient and can live for decades. There are documented jade plants that are over 100 years old, passed down through generations of the same family. In cultures that associate it with wealth, this longevity is not metaphorical. A plant that survives for a century and continues to produce new growth is, symbolically and practically, an asset. The slow growth rate is itself significant. Unlike Pothos, which rewards with visible progress every week, jade teaches patience. It grows a few millimeters at a time, thickening its trunk imperceptibly, storing water in its leaves against future drought. This is not the strategy of quick returns. It is the strategy of compound interest, small, consistent accumulation over long periods, resulting in something substantial that can weather any crisis. The parallel with sound financial planning is not accidental. It is the reason why cultures that value long-term wealth, Chinese, Japanese, South African, gravitated toward this particular plant as their symbol of prosperity. The Feng Shui placement for jade is specific, near the entrance of a home or business, ideally on the right side of the door when facing inward. The logic is that wealth enters through the front door, and the jade plant is positioned to receive and hold it, just as its thick leaves hold water in arid conditions. Storage, retention, accumulation, the same principles that govern personal finance. Pothos flows, jade accumulates. The third plant does something neither of the other two can do. It actively cleans and restructures the energy of a space, removing what should not be there, creating the conditions in which prosperity becomes possible. If Pothos is the river and jade is the vault, this plant is the guard at the door. Plant 3, snake plant, Sansevieria trifasciata, the guardian. In Nigeria, where Sansevieria trifasciata grows wild, the Yoruba people call it the plant that fights. In China, it is known as tiger's tail orchid. In Brazil, sword of St. George, espada de São Jorge, and it is ritually placed behind doors for spiritual protection. In Japan, it is associated with the energy of persistence and resilience. In Feng Shui, it is one of very few plants recommended for placement in the bedroom, a room where most plants are discouraged because of nighttime carbon dioxide release. The reason is the same cam photosynthesis found in jade, but amplified. The snake plant is one of the most aggressive nighttime oxygen producers ever studied. The NASA Clean Air Study ranked it among the top performers for removing formaldehyde, trichloroethylene, benzene, and xylene. And unlike Pothos, which performs best in ambient conditions, the snake plant continues its air purification cycle around the clock, with peak performance occurring precisely when most people are asleep. A 2022 study from the Indian Institute of Technology found that placing 3 to 4 snake plants in a room of approximately 15 square meters reduced indoor air pollutants by up to 30% within 24 hours. The researchers noted improvements in sleep quality among participants, including faster sleep onset, fewer nocturnal awakenings, and higher self-reported energy levels the following morning. The implications extend beyond simple comfort. A 2019 meta-analysis published in the journal Sleep Medicine Reviews examined the relationship between sleep quality and economic behavior across 14 countries and more than 40,000 participants. The findings were striking. Individuals who reported consistently poor sleep earned, on average, between 4 and 16% less annual income than those who slept well, even after controlling for education, occupation, and working hours. The mechanism was not laziness or lack of effort. It was cognitive degradation. Poor sleepers made worse decisions, negotiated less effectively, missed more opportunities, and were significantly more prone to impulsive financial behavior. The link to prosperity is indirect but powerful. Sleep quality is the single most undervalued factor in financial decision-making. A person who sleeps poorly is more reactive, more prone to anxiety, more likely to make short-term decisions at the expense of long-term planning. Chronic sleep deprivation has been linked to impulsive spending, reduced negotiation effectiveness, and lower workplace productivity, all of which have direct financial consequences. The snake plant removes the invisible barriers. It cleans the air. It produces oxygen at night. It requires almost no maintenance. Watering once a month is sufficient, and it tolerates low light, direct sun, drafts, and neglect with equal indifference. A single plant costs between 1 and 3 euros. It propagates easily from leaf cuttings. A single leaf cut into sections and placed in moist soil can produce 3 to 4 new plants within 2 months. And it grows vertically, occupying almost no horizontal space, making it ideal for small apartments, bedrooms, and home offices where every square centimeter matters. The architectural quality of the snake plant deserves mention. Its rigid, upward-pointing leaves create strong vertical lines that interior designers associate with stability, order, and ambition. Placed in a corner or beside a doorway, it functions as a visual anchor, a structural element that organizes the perception of the space around it. This is not decoration. It is environmental psychology applied through botany. A space that feels ordered and intentional promotes ordered and intentional thinking, the kind of thinking that builds wealth. The Yoruba name is accurate. This plant fights. It fights against the invisible pollutants that degrade cognitive function. It fights against the poor sleep that undermines financial clarity. It fights quietly and continuously for the health of the space it inhabits. Pothos, jade, and snake plant, flow, accumulation, and protection. 3 plants that cost less than 3 euros each, less than a cup of coffee in most cities. And that together create a biological and psychological environment that multiple cultures, across thousands of years, and without any contact with each other, independently associated with prosperity. This is not magic. It is convergent observation. When millions of people across centuries place the same plants in their homes and notice the same results, and when modern science then identifies the specific mechanisms, air purification, nighttime oxygenation, stress reduction, cognitive enhancement, the pattern is no longer anecdotal, it is data. The placement matters, Pothos in the southeast corner or in an elevated position where its vines can cascade downward, representing the flow of abundance into the space. Jade near the entrance on the right side of the main door, receiving and storing the energy that enters. Snake plant in the bedroom or home office, cleaning the air and protecting the cognitive clarity needed to make sound financial decisions. Together, they cover the 3 fundamental principles that every tradition of prosperity recognizes: attract, retain, and protect. The pothos attracts, the jade retains, the snake plant protects. No single plant can do all 3. But the combination, costing less than the price of a meal, creates a system that operates continuously, silently, and without requiring any ongoing expense. The most expensive wellness products on the market, air purifiers, essential oil diffusers, sleep optimization devices, are attempting to replicate effects that these 3 plants produce naturally, silently, and for a fraction of the cost. A 50 euro air purifier runs on electricity, requires filter replacements, and depreciates over time. A pothos cutting in a glass of water appreciates, it grows, it multiplies, it improves with age. In more than 20 years of cultivating plants, the most consistent lesson has been this: the plants that provide the greatest return are rarely the most expensive or the most exotic. They are the ones that have survived the test of time, the ones that cultures separated by oceans and centuries all arrived at independently. Pothos, jade, and snake plant have earned their place not through marketing, but through millennia of quiet, proven performance. 3 plants, less than 9 euros total. Thousands of years of tradition, confirmed by NASA, environmental psychology, and air quality research. The simplest investment a home can receive, and according to every culture that has studied the relationship between plants and prosperity, one of the most effective. Those who have experience growing any of these 3 plants are invited to share their observations, Practical knowledge from real gardens and real homes often reveals details that controlled studies cannot capture. I Like helps this content reach others exploring the same path. Subscribing ensures the next video arrives when it is published.